So this episode we're going to look at abilities in more detail, and as you know, Dota has a very vast number of different abilities in the game, and I'll kind of break this down step by step. We won't be covering every single topic with abilities, and we'll leave them for future episodes, but for now we're going to try to make an ability that's just going to do damage to the enemy when we click on them. So let's go to our project folder and let's close this down. Right, here's our project folder. We go into scripts, NPC, and we want to open up NPC abilities custom.txt. Now in here, last time we made custom blink, and what it did was you click on a point on the ground and it teleports you to that location. Now I have made another ability here which you can go onto GitHub, and there'll be a link down in the description, and you can download this, or you can just copy and paste it into your project. Now in Cool Beans, here is a bunch of key values that can be defined for every single ability that's in Dota. Will be able to use these in some shape or form. So we'll go down through all of these keys, and this is really good just for a template to start you off and get you going with this. So the straight off away here we have base class is a Lua ability. The script file is called Cool Beans. Now we need to go and create this script file and create a very simple layout for it. So let's go back to our project folder and go into vscripts, and last time where we made custom blink, we also want to make another file called coolbeans.lua. And now we're going to open this up and make a very simple basic layout for this as well. So in here we do cool beans equals class, and we're going to go function cool beans on spell start. And in here we're just going to print out here when we cast this spell, when the spell starts on this event. So we'll be coming back to this file in a couple of minutes, but it ends up being really important to have this here, otherwise your ability won't work if you don't have I think this line of code, because you have to define the class in the Lua. So back to our abilities key value file. So in here we have the next line is abilities behavior, and this defines the properties of how your ability can be inputted into the game and prevents the player from clicking on certain things. So this is a unit target, meaning that you can click on any unit. So that can be an enemy, an ally, a creep, a hero, whatever it is. It has to be a unit. Now last time what we used was a point target, so a point. Now how do we know all of these different types of behaviors that you can have? Well, these behaviors, this like text here is actually a number, and this unit target stands for 8, and what this is called is a constant. It's a way of making the code it's easier to remember numbers by having a name. So if you're ever stuck with one of these, you can go and select all of this, copy it, and you can put it into your API. So if we go onto the API page up here at the very top, it looks like this. So if we go in and search this, it'll come up and show us the result of what it is. Now in here is Dota, and the category this is under is Dota ability behavior, and here you see highlighted in blue in yellow is the prefix. So this is the naming beforehand, and these are all the different types that you can do. As you can see, there's a lot of different types, and we won't go through every single one of them, but I'm going to explain some of these that are in here in more detail. So a passive is an ability that you don't have to press. It does something in the background. No target is a spell that you don't have to click on anyone or any particular target or the ground or anything. This could be like Zeus's ultimate. You press your ulti and it just hits all the enemies. A unit target means you have to click on an enemy. This could be like a Sven's stun, where you click on the enemy and it stuns them. The point is a point on the ground that you have to click. That could be like Morana's arrow. It can be Zeus's lightning bolt. As a matter of fact, you can combine these together. If you've ever played Zeus enough, you'll know that you can click on an enemy and you can also click on a point, and it will lock on kind of to the unit target. So you can have both a point and a unit target, and we'll be looking at how you can do that in a minute. Then you have an AoE, which is an area of effect. This can be used in combination with a point, and this will show the AoE overlay when you are in Dota. This is usually like a blue circle that you will see around your cursor when you are like targeting the ability. You have a channeled ability, which can also be cancelled. You have items. You have a toggleable ability, is where you can toggle an ability on and off, like Medusa's shield, whatever it's called, mana shield. Then there's autocast. This is like Husker's burning spears, where you can have, it has its own interaction in Dota. Again, this is, you might not even use this one. You might never use channeled abilities. You have auras, so like Vladimir's offering gives aura of a lifesteal or something along the lines of that. So let's say I want my ability to both do unit target and point target. So if I go here, I can go like that and have this. So this vertical line is an OR, and it's bitwise. So for people who know what that is, it might give you an idea, but you have to have a space at the left and right. So this will do both unit target and point, but in this example that we're going to do, we're only going to be using unit target. Now the next key is the texture name, ability texture name, and here we have Dragonite's Dragon Tail, and this is going to use Dragonite's Dragon Tail stuns icon. Now where do we know the name and where did we get that from? If we go back to the scripting page that's on the developer tools, and we go down here to built-in ability names, we click on this, it will give us up a reference to the name of every single ability that's in Dota. So let's say we wanted to use, some of them are named the same as like what the hero's ability is. So this is Abaddon's Dream Coil, or Death Coil, sorry. Beastmaster's Wild Axes. You can use any ability that's here. You might know Bloodseeker's Rupture. These are all different examples that you can use as icons. And if you don't have an icon, what will happen is that you will get something like this, where there's just no icon in place. It's just a placeholder. And we'll show in the future how you can make your own icons, but for now I highly recommend you just use your own ability icon, or the ones that are in Dota already. Now if we go back here to our key values again, we have targeting type. So this targeting type will allow us to only click on heroes and basic units. This will not allow our ability to be clicked on, let's say, a building. We can't do that, and there's different targeting types, and again, if you want to look at all of them, you can search this prefix here, Dota unit target, into the API, and it will give you a bunch of results back. Just to show you, for example, here are all the different ones, and there's a ton of them. You can ignore, say, invisible units that are available right now. There's a ton of different ones, and you have flags. So targeting flags are ignoring certain types of units from your selection. So let's say I have a spell and I don't want to be able to click it on magic immune enemies. This is a way that you can prevent it being clicking on magic immune enemies. There's also a ton of other flags that you can do as well. Let's have a look. There's melee only, ranged only, for example. Those are very good ones to use as an example with Battle Fury, for example, is a simple one. So then we have ability unit damage type. You have physical damage. You can change this to magical, or you can change it to pure damage. So pure damage takes into account no damage reduction. With magic damage and physical damage, Dota already has a certain percentage of magic resist on all the heroes. So if you want to do magical or physical, you need to take into account how the armor, how physical reduction and magical resistance works in Dota, and you might want to override all of that. So in Dota itself, if we look here at Templar Assassin, she has 26% magical resist and 21% physical resist, which is just really important to take into account when you're thinking about damage. So before we're going to look at any of the rest of the stuff, we're going to run this and see what our ability currently looks like. So let's go into our tools and restart this. Now when we load this up, you'll notice nothing has actually changed, and the reason why is because I've never set the ability to be linked to my hero. So you need to go into back into your key value files and go into heroes, your hero key value file, and currently we have custom blink on ability 1. Now what we're going to do is change this to ability 2 down here, and we're going to make what was the name of our ability? Cool Beans. And we put cool beans in there. So the ability slot 2 will now be assigned to it. So we're going to restart again. So now we can see that we have our ability down here, which is a dragon tail stun icon, and I can level it up on level 1. Now you'll see that there's only 3 dots at the bottom of here in the heads up display. That's because that's the maximum number of levels we have. And what I will show you is if we go over here to our key value file again for our abilities, you'll notice that it says here maximum level 3, and we are also a basic type of ability. There's also ultimate, so if you change this to ultimate, it will put it in the ultimate slot, or the ultimate key, which is in my case or. So you need to do that for the or ability, but you don't really there's some weird stuff that can happen. So if you don't have to use the ultimate slot, you should just have basic. So with max ability is number 3. The required level is the level that you currently have to be to level it up. With ultimates, it's usually level 6 in Dota normally, and a normal ability in Dota also has a number of levels between them which you can upgrade it. So when I'm on level 3 in Dota, I can't have, say, 3 points in one spell. I can only have 2 points, and how it works in Dota is that you have 2 levels between each upgrade. So this is normally what would happen. So to give you an example, a concrete example, is that if I go here and level up, I write in the command for level up by 1. Now on level 2 on my heroes, I cannot level up this spell on my second slot, my cool bean. So if I level up to level 3, I level up 1 more level. Now I can level it to level 2. As we can see, now we have 2 levels, and this will go on again if we keep leveling up. On level 4 we can't level it, and on level 5 we can level it now again, so we get the 3rd level. So what you might want to do then is look down here at the next one, which is cast point. This is the animation that happens beforehand when you're using it. So let's go and see what happens when we click on the enemy for doing it. So we click here and it does nothing. As you see, it doesn't do any damage. I'm after clicking it twice now, and we'll look at the console and it says here, as you remember, that all of our spells started was just print out the words here. So now if we look at the other key values, so the cast animation is act Dota attack. So this is also how animations are done. So if we go back to the API here and we can search this, and here are all the animations that can be used. For example, here you have act Dota cast ability 1. This will be the first ability that the hero normally has, and it will use that animation. So cast ability 2 will use the second animation that's there for the second ability, and 3rd, 4th, 5th, and so forth, to how many abilities the hero has. You also have flail, which is the stun animation that you have. There's a die animation, an attack animation, run, idle, and so forth. And there's a ton of different ones that are down along here. Now, we're not going to deal with animations in this episode. We might look at it later. But one of the things is the animation playback rate. So you can make this animation play twice as fast. I think if you set it to 2, and if you set it to 0.5, it will play it twice as quick. You can change that number if you want, or you can just leave it normally at just 1. And animation ignores model scale. So some of the animations like play faster or slower if the model is bigger. As you saw, we made the enemy unit really big last time, so his animation might play a little bit too slow for what we might want, so you can change it there. But those are not really important stuff because they're not changing stats within the game. This is where we're going to go on to next, which is stats. So ability damage is 20, 50, 100. So this at level 1, level 2, and level 3 it's going to do 100. So if we look inside our UI, it will actually prompt this up down here saying 20, 50, 100 is our damage. Now we also see here the ability mana cost is currently 0 on every level. If we want to change this, we could change this to 10, 10 and 10, or 10, 10, 20, whatever we want to have the ability mana cost to be. If you set it to 0, it won't really have any mana cost at all, as you might guess. So then ability cooldown is the cooldown on each level. So if we want to have a 2-second cooldown on level 1, a 1-second cooldown, and then let's say a 0.5-second cooldown on level 3. With ability cast range, this is the cast range that you can have in your game. So at the moment it's set to 0, which means that there's no cast range, and that's not really useful. And what we're going to do is set it to 500, and we're going to see what this ends up looking like in a minute, and I'll show you what it looks like in game. But for now we'll look at these other things. So these 4 lines here, 5 lines actually, are commented out, and the reason why is because we're not going to use them for this ability, but it's good to have them in part of the template so that you can, when you're copy and pasting, you can reuse it. So we have a cast range buffer, which I don't actually know what that one does, but it's just there. That's a very good description. So the channel time is the amount of time you're channeling the ability. So say Witch Doctor can use his ultimate for like say 3 seconds or 5 seconds, or it's a different channel time. For channeled abilities, we're not looking at channeled abilities this episode. You have mana cost per second, ability duration, which is another thing I don't really know because I never really used these, to be honest. And then the AoE radius is linked with an AoE behavior. So this AoE radius, if your behavior up here instead of unit target is AoE, you will utilize this AoE thing and it will show how big the radius of your ability is going to affect. And the last one is user defined values that you can put in yourself. So these are extra things. So these are called ability specials, and they can be accessed into your Lua code. So each one would be called like this. So you have a var type of float and its damage. So on level 1 it's going to be 0.5, 0.2, 0.3. Now we're going to change this to stun duration, and that kind of makes a little bit more sense about what we might be doing in the next episode. But for right now, we want to look at like what else can you do with this. So if you want to make another one, you would go like this and change this to number 2, and you could change this to an integer, and here you can change this to like 500 or whatever your value is. And this is the name of the value. So this could be let's say vision radius. Let's say if you wanted your ability to do something like vision, to give 500 vision on where you click it. So this could be your value here of 500. Now you can have different levels as well, like 600, 700 on each level. Or you can just do having 500 on itself. So those are ability specials, and we'll be looking at them particularly in our Lua code. So now let's save this and go, and we're going to actually run this, right? We're going to restart and we're going to look at the AoE or the casting range we're going to look at. So now that we have this ability, if we hover over it, the cast range comes up with a green circle around our hero, and this shows you how far you have to be away until you can click that ability on a unit, or to click on the ground, or whatever your behavior of your ability is. But this is the cast range. As you'll see here, when I click on the enemy, my hero is going to walk closer to the enemy until I get into range of it. So let's click on him, and you see that here's the radius, and then now we use the ability on them. So it prints out in the console here. So now we have to define what this ability is going to be doing in our Lua code. So let's go to coolbeans.lua, and in here we have a spell start. So we need to go self.getCursorTarget. This is specific to unit target abilities. If you're using a point target, the getCursorTarget will return nil. This function won't return anything, so we go and we go target equals this. in the case sometimes our target might be nil, if we change the behavior of our ability, we want to go and check to see if target is not equal to nil, then do something. So we're going to do something here. So we're also going to get this variable as well called caster, and this is self.caster, or getCaster it is. And if you're wondering what self is the ability class, the base ability class, and in this case self is cool beans. So this is the name of our instance of this ability. So in target we want to go and apply damage. How do we apply damage in Dota? So in the API there is a function up near the very top. It's a global function called apply damage. What we're going to do is open this in a new tab, and we're going to look at this example that the Valve have given to us. So here in this example, it's not very useful, and so we're just going to get this code. We have just an example here. Let me tab it out for a second. Okay, so victim equals player hero. So the player hero is these are not like really making sense here. So we're going to get rid of these for a second. Now we're going to say victim is the target. This is the hero that we're after just clicking on. And the attacker is the caster. This is the hero that casts the ability. Now we're going to do a damage of not 500. And instead what we're going to do is go self.get. There's a one for getting the amount of damage from your data files. So there's get damage. What is it called? So base ability. Here, C base Dota ability, get ability damage, I think it is. Let's have a look here. Get ability damage, there we go. So this is the function we want to extract the damage from our key value file. So this will allow us, instead of hard coding 500, we don't want to hard code our values, and this will update based on the level we are. So this will automatically, this function will get us if we're on level 1, level 2, level 3 of this ability. So we don't have to specify anything in here. So the damage will be set here, and we can, I think we can get like damage type as well. So we can go self.get damage type. So we're using the data file. So this ends up being much easier for us to change stuff in without changing any of the Lua code. We can just go in here and change the data from our abilities, like text file here essentially, which is much easier. And these other two are optional. This is damage flags. We're not really going to care too much about that. And ability is also optional. So we're going to comment the two of those out. If you want to go ability, it would just be self. And that's really about it. So we can comment those out, but we're not using them. Then what we do is we call this function called apply damage. And we're passing in this table that we're after making into it. This specifies all the information that's needed for applying damage. And Dota will do it through itself like this. You should not use any functions like set health or set mana or anything like that. This is the easiest and simplest way, and it uses the combat log as well within Dota. So if we go here and we're going to restart our custom game, and it should apply damage to the unit target unless we have written a bug. So we didn't get any errors when we came up first, and we level up our ability. We clicked on the enemy hero, and it did a very small amount of damage to him. You might not have seen it, but I click it again, and there's very small amount of damage going in. His health bar is getting a little bit smaller, as you can see here, each time with that ability. Now if we look here, our ability currently does 20 damage. So if we level up by 5 and we level this twice, now it's going to do 100 damage. So you see that the health bar is changing quite more significantly each time that I use it, and the cooldown is also updating. So this is a very basic damage ability in Dota. Now if we want to do other stuff, let's say here, these ability specials, these are other factors that you can also extract from the data file. Now down here in this base ability class in the API, we'll look at the API in a little bit more detail in a future episode. But down here is a bunch of functions you can get. So you can get the targeting team, the targeting flags, and stuff like that. And you can use extract. It's basically extracting the data. And one of the ones that's very useful for getting user-defined values is get special value for. So before we're going to do any actual logic, or we're just going to do this for an example. So if we go self.getAbilityFor to show you how you can extract values from your user-defined stuff. So we had, if we go back here, we had an ability special called stun duration. And if we go and get stun duration, and we want to go and store this as stun duration equals this, and we're just going to print it out and go stun duration and stun duration. Okay, so when we use this ability, when we restart the game mode, it will print out how long the stun duration is, and it's getting this from our user data. So now we have our ability that's on level 1, and we'll open up the console. I'm going to just push it down a little bit here so we can see it. And if I go and click this ability on the enemy, the console ends up saying stun duration 0.5. Now if we go and level up now, level up by 2, and now we can level up our ability again, and we click it here, it says stun duration 1, and we level up again by another 2 levels, we skill our ability, and it should say stun duration is 3. So this is extracting that custom data value that we had in our key value file. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more custom game tutorials, make sure you subscribe and drop a like if you enjoyed it too.